Hi there, everybody. Today we are going to be giving my honest review on Snowball Analytics, the dividend investing platform. I personally think this was designed exactly for dividend investors just because it has tons of tools that help dividend investors specifically. So, we're going to take a look at the overall dashboards and some of the different tools that it has, and all of the numbers that you are going to be seeing. These are all from my portfolio or multiple portfolios because they are linked together. And as you can see right here, I do have a handful of portfolios. So this is what your dashboard is that you're going to see when you first log in. So you're going to see the total value of your portfolio and then the actual value that you've invested. You'll see your total profit and then your day profit. You have your IRR and then your passive income number, which is going to be your total passive income for the next year. And then this 2.58 is the total percentage of passive income that I am receiving. So if we scroll down, we're going to get a nice visual right here. And this is going to represent the overall allocations to different types of sectors in your investment portfolio. So you can see that ETFs or funds are the largest proportion of my portfolio, making up 72%. And then over here, this is the breakdown that this chart is using. So inside of my funds, again, it breaks it down for us, but it's mainly going to be VOO and Charles Schwab's SCHD. So if we make our way down a little bit further, we're going to see that we have our day gainers and day losers. So this way you can check and see on how your positions are doing overall, which ones are doing good and which ones are not doing as hot. Then if you scroll down a little bit further, you're going to get the recent and upcoming events. So this is only going to be for companies or ticker symbols that are in your portfolio. So you can see that on the 24th, which happens to be the day I'm recording this, that UPS has their earnings, and then in a couple of days, Pfizer has their earnings, and then a little bit further down, you have the latest news and articles, and these little comments up here saying mostly negative, negative, mostly positive, those are all AI generated. As you can see right here, it says this article is processed by AI. So they just kind of go through and scrape a lot of the keywords to see how everything is being interpreted, if it's a positive or negative thing. A little bit lower, we have our future payments, which this is just forward looking to see what your next dividend payments are going to be based off of the holdings that you currently have in your portfolio. Then you have your dividends received, where this is just looking backwards to see what income you have had in the past. And so you can see that this month I've made, $172. And that is the same over here for the future payments, but this is looking forward and this one is looking backwards. Next, we can scroll down to the very last thing on the page, and it's going to be your dividend growth and your dividend goals. I currently have my dividend goal set at getting to $1,000 by the end of the year in passive income. So I'm about $44 away from hitting that milestone. So that is achievable for me by the end of the year based on the parameters that I've put in here. And so you can actually go into this and set it by portfolio. So this is combined for all my portfolios. I have the passive income that I'm trying to attain, when I'm trying to get there by, and how much I'm investing per month. So you can go in and help keep yourself on track there to see if you're going to be able to hit your goals by the time that you get there. So let me go over to this next tab for analytics. So again, you have those same metrics up on top, the portfolio value, profit, passive income, and IRR. But then you can go into your holding section, and this way you can keep an eye on the overall portfolio weight by position. So over here on the right, you can see that 56.52% of my portfolio is set in VOO, and just under 9% is going to be in Charles Schwab's SCHD. But then if you scroll down, not many positions are much higher than 5%. I mean, only Realty Income and UWMC are over that 5% mark. But it also gives you a ton of other statistics, such as the total number of shares. And again, this is the aggregate of all of the portfolios that I do have inside of Snowball Analytics. The cost per share, which is my cost, and then this number down here is going to be the current trading price of the equity. There's my cost basis and then the current value, the total dividends that I'll receive, the dividend yield, my yield on cost, the dividend growth rate, and then your total profit. And one of the reasons I think this is specifically designed for dividend investors is because if you go ahead and scroll on top of the total profit, you'll see that that is comprised of your capital gain, your realized P&L, and the dividends received. And that's a really important number because For the longest time with Altria Group right here, like you can see the total price that I've paid is actually more than what it's currently trading at. But when you combine the capital gain with the realized P&L and the dividends received, I'm actually a net positive of about 2.5%. So that's a really important metric to keep in mind, especially as a dividend investor. The next thing I want to go ahead and take a look at is just the portfolio section, which this is going to be very similar to the last section that we just looked at, but this one is more customizable. So if you go over here to this little toggle tab, oh, pardon me, you can turn on tons of different statistics and metrics that you can use to measure your portfolio performance, but the ones that I like are the shares, current value, dividend yield, when the next payment's going to be, what the next payment or when the next ex dividend date is, and then again the share of it in my portfolio. Then you also just have the general holdings, which is kind of what we were just looking at before, but this one will show you the total profit and daily gains. Again, this is fully customizable to your liking. Then we have a transaction page, which is super helpful, especially when you have multiple accounts just like I do. It's kind of tough to go back and forth and sign into them all to check and see when you bought certain things. So this kind of throws it all together. So you can see here on the 17th, I bought 12 shares of SCHD in my taxable account. Then the day before, I bought 0.12 shares of VOO, and then just it aggregates everything together, so you can just go to one place and see what you've purchased in all of your overall holdings. And probably my favorite feature of Snowball Analytics is right here. This is the dividend calendar. So you can look at a handful of different things here right now. We are looking at the 1 year ahead, which is going to be 12 months looking forward, versus you can also look at the income for the next year, such as 2025, or you can actually look back in time. So you can see in this year, I'm expected to make $834 versus last year, I only made $572. So you can look at a ton of different statistics here, but if you take a look at the 1 year ahead, it really gives you the option to look and see and be very specific about what income you're getting and when you're getting it. So if you are planning on living off of dividends, this will give you a really good outlook of when you're having income hit your accounts. So we'll look at ones that I have not received yet. So in November, I'm only making about $25, but I can see I'll get paid on the 1st, a little bit on the 14th, a little bit on the 15th, some on the 27th, and some on the 29th, which is just super useful when it comes to just trying to build your overall portfolio. You can try and keep your income as consistent as possible. As you can see, mine kind of jumps around a little bit here, but that is probably my favorite overall feature of Snowball Analytics. And then we can go over to tools, and the biggest one that I think is my favorite of all of their tools is just the dividend payout calendar. As you can see by the graph down below, that my portfolio is not super evenly spaced on where income is coming from, mainly because I'm holding a ton of ETFs, but you can actually go in and check and see out of all the stocks that they have on here, when they're paying dividends, when the payment date is, when the ex-dividend date is, how much the overall yield, and if their payment is guaranteed or that they've already declared it already, and the frequency of which they pay their dividends, if it's quarterly or monthly. So if you're looking to try and add something that's below a 3% dividend yield, and so you can go look at Illinois Toolworks. So like you'd be able to go and look and see, okay, this is under, let's go and take a look at that portfolio or see if this is something worth adding to the portfolio. And then it also gives you tons of statistics just by looking at the actual company. So you have the earnings date, PE ratio, earnings per share, the market cap, the dividend yield, and then so you can look at different date ranges. But then you also have this dividend tab, which is a really neat tool to be able to just kind of get a quick snapshot of how the company's actually doing. So you have the dividend yield, how much it's paying per share, and then you have the overall growth, which I'm a big fan of being able to see. I mean, 5 year average dividend growth rate of about 7% is really solid. So this might be something worth adding to my portfolio, especially considering they're only paying out about 54% of their profits to their shareholders, which is, again, a really solid statistic when it comes to dividend investing. So the last piece that I would like to look at is looking at top dividend stocks just because they have this as a tool in here. If you look at the top dividend stocks, you'll be able to kind of gauge an idea of what companies have really solid dividend growth on average over the last 5 years. And then it also ranks it by a couple of different parameters, which you can set yourself. But the way I have it personally is by dividend growth, and then also as long as it has a solid dividend growth streak, I think it's something worth looking at. So you can see Dollar General has about a 3% dividend yield, but it's been growing its dividend by over 13% year over year for the last 5 years. So this might be something worth adding to my portfolio. And then the last thing I would like to touch on is they do have a community tab. I personally do not use this. I like to keep the investing that I do, I put out there for everyone to see. And, I put it on YouTube so anyone is able to look at it and hopefully gain some information. But you can see based off of Snowball users what percentage of people are investing in these. So really income happens to be number one, 21.5% of owners that are using Snowball Analytics have it in their portfolio. Just under 20% have Apple. And then you also have public portfolios. So you can kind of check and see what other people are doing. I mean, this guy is a high yield snowballer. So he's holding tons of really risky high yield max funds. So you can see right here that, he's got this fund, which, the charge is a 1.28% fee, but it has a 67% dividend yield. So, I mean, that's kind of crazy. But overall, Snowball Analytics is a fantastic tool when it comes to dividend investing. It just has all of the bells and whistles that you could possibly ask for. It's the only platform that I would ever consider using. So if you want to give it a shot, there is a link in the description. You get 14 days for free, and then if you do decide to sign up, you'll get 10% off on your first month. And there's different tiers when it comes to your portfolio and your subscription of which you can do. If you have multiple portfolios, then I'd recommend doing the investor, which is what I currently am using. But they do have a starter. If you only have one account, you can definitely use that. And then you have an expert account, which, I mean, unless you have a ton of different portfolios, and then at that point, you probably aren't wanting to use a platform because you're using something that's, that you've custom built to fit your needs. But if you're in that happy medium of just having a handful of portfolios and you want to keep track of everything, I would definitely consider using Snowball Analytics. I think it is the best tool that you can have in your back pocket if you're a new dividend investor or are even well established, just because it will keep you on top of everything and give you more information than you could ever need to make the best decisions possible.